Rebecca Romney seemed like the perfect rare book expert on Pawn Stars, calm, smart, and trusted by Rick Harrison himself. But in 2014, everything changed. A stolen book worth $40,000 appeared on the show. Then the FBI stepped in and questioned Rebecca about how stolen books made it onto national TV. By January 2015, she vanished from the show without explanation. No goodbye, no official statement. Today we're uncovering what really happened behind the cameras and why the truth was buried for so long. The story of the Book Whisperer doesn't begin in the ivory towers of the Ivy League or the dusty archives of London. It begins in the scorching heat of Phoenix, Arizona. Born on April 6, 1985, Rebecca Romney grew up in a world where the concept of a rare book felt like a distant, dusty myth. As a child of the desert, she was more interested in the vastness of ideas than the physical weight of paper. In her early years, she was known to dismiss old books as boring relics for old men, a quote that would eventually haunt her with its irony. But Rebecca possessed a mind that was anything but ordinary. Her academic journey was driven by a hunger for philosophy and a near supernatural facility for languages. While most teenagers were navigating the social hierarchies of high school, Rebecca was sequestered in libraries, teaching herself the foundations of Western thought. By the time she reached her early 20s, she had mastered what she calls 5.5 languages: English, the precision tool of her trade; French, the language of the Enlightenment; Japanese, a modern, complex bridge to Eastern literature; Latin, the rigid backbone of historical documentation; Ancient Greek, the liquid, poetic tongue of the first philosophers; Old English, the harsh, guttural roots of the Anglo-Saxon tradition. This wasn't just a casual interest. Rebecca was a scholar of the 12-hour day. Her professors at Brigham Young University recall a student who didn't just study for exams, she inhaled the material. During one university final, she was tasked with translating a Greek papyrus dating back to 300 BC. She didn't just translate it, she interpreted the cultural nuances with such accuracy that her professors were stunned. This linguistic training was the secret weapon that would later allow her to spot forgeries that had fooled seasoned mail experts for decades. In 2007, fate intervened through a simple misunderstanding. Rebecca applied for a management position at Bauman Rare Books in Philadelphia. When she walked into the interview, she realized she had misread the job description. It wasn't a standard corporate management role, it was a call for a bibliographical expert. She almost walked out, feeling like a fraud before she'd even begun. Instead, she sat down, looked the interviewers in the eye, and admitted she knew nothing about the rare book trade. Her honesty, combined with her ability to read 5 dead and living languages, secured her the job. Within 3 years, she was managing their Las Vegas gallery. By 29, she was the youngest senior director in the history of the firm, overseeing catalogs and private sales that exceeded $10 million annually. Rick Harrison, the patriarch of the gold and silver pawn shop, is a man who values expertise above all else. Since 1989, he had seen thousands of people walk through his doors with treasures that turned out to be trash. When Pawn Stars became a global juggernaut, the stakes for accuracy skyrocketed. Rick didn't want a TV expert, he wanted a real one. Having met Rebecca through the tight-knit Las Vegas antiques community, he knew she was the only person who could handle the high-pressure world of paper appraisals. Their relationship was built on a shared obsession with history. They even went on double dates, a fact that surprised many fans who saw her merely as a professional contact. Her debut on April 4, 2011 was a revelation. Handed a stack of Civil War-era Confederate bonds, she didn't just look at the signatures, she felt the fiber of the paper. She explained to millions of viewers how the ink had interacted with the rag content of 1860s stationery. In less than 10 minutes, she exposed a forged signature that saved the shop thousands. Ratings for the show surged by 15% during her segments. She became the book lady, the calm center in the chaotic storm of the pawn shop. Between 2011 and 2015, Rebecca performed some of the most memorable evaluations in reality TV history. The Darwin Breakthrough, a first edition of On the Origin of Species, 1859. Rebecca identified the specific green cloth binding and the publisher's advertisements that confirmed it was one of the first 1,250 copies ever printed. She valued it at $75,000. Saving Chumley. When Chumley bought a signed Charles Lindbergh autobiography for $500, Rick was ready to fire him. Rebecca proved the signature was authentic, tracing the evolution of Lindbergh's handwriting as his fame grew. The value? $1,500. The Poe discovery. In 2013, she authenticated a set of notes linked to Edgar Allan Poe hidden inside a seemingly worthless manuscript. The year 2014 was supposed to be a banner year for Rebecca, but it became the year of the Great Unraveling. A seller walked into the shop with an 1841 edition of the Book of Mormon. It was a holy grail for collectors of Americana. Rebecca appraised it at $40,000. Rick bought it for $24,000. However, the celebratory mood evaporated when rumors began to circulate that the book had been stolen from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. According to insiders and subsequent reports, federal agents, specifically the FBI's Art Crime Team, eventually stepped in. The investigation centered on provenance, the documented history of an item's ownership. The FBI allegedly questioned Rebecca about the due diligence performed on national television. How could a stolen university relic be bought and sold in front of millions of people without anyone checking the stolen registries? While Rebecca was never accused of any criminal wrongdoing, the weight of a federal inquiry began to cast a shadow over her tenure. This wasn't just a business mistake, it was a professional crisis. By January 10, 2015, she made her final appearance. She appraised a pirate book from 1734, and then the book whisperer went silent. When Rebecca married J.P. Romney in 2016, the public curiosity shifted from her books to her last name. J.P. Romney was not just a researcher, he was a man with deep roots in American history. As fans realized the connection to Mitt Romney, the 2012 presidential candidate and Utah senator, the theories went wild. To understand the reality of her connection to the Romney dynasty, let's run a political proximity test to see how much of the Romney brand actually influenced her life. The Romney Proximity Diagnostic. 1. The Family Reunion Test. The myth: Rebecca attends high-stakes dinners at the Romney family compound in New Hampshire, discussing bibliographical history with Mitt Romney. The reality: Rebecca has never met Mitt Romney. The connection is distantly related by marriage. Verdict: 0% actual proximity. It is a name on a marriage license, not an invite to a political rally. 2. The Dynasty Test. The myth: Rebecca's career was bolstered by the political weight of former Michigan Governor George Romney. The reality: Rebecca built her career in a Las Vegas bookstore while living in a philosophy dorm. She never used the name until after she had already become a senior director at Bauman. Verdict: independent success. The Romney name followed her success, it didn't create it. 3. The Creative Collaboration Test. The myth: the Romneys used their influence to get her book, Printer's Error, published. The reality: the book was co-written with her ex-husband J.P. Romney and relied entirely on her own reputation as a Pawn Stars expert. Verdict: intellectual partnership. The Romney involved was her husband, a scholar in his own right, not a political strategist. 4. The Legacy Test. The myth: after her 2023 divorce, she would drop the name to distance herself from the politics. The reality: she kept the name Rebecca Romney because it is her professional brand in the antiquarian world. Verdict: professional pragmatism. She owns the name now, not the political machine. Rebecca didn't just leave Pawn Stars, she outgrew it. In 2019, she co-founded Type Punch Matrix in Silver Spring, Maryland. This wasn't a pawn shop, it was a revolutionary firm that treated rare books like radical artifacts. She also turned her attention to the sexism inherent in book history. She launched the Honey and Wax Book Collecting Prize, awarding $1,000 to young women collectors. She noticed that women were collecting just as much as men, but they were being erased from the narrative of great collectors. By early 2025, Rebecca released her most important work to date, Jane Allen Books' Shelf.
It was a forensic investigation into the Great Forgetting. She proved that women like Frances Burney and Anne Radcliffe, who were the best-selling authors of their time, had been systematically removed from history. She revealed that only 10 to 15% of 18th century novels by women survive today. This wasn't an accident, it was a failure of the preservation systems managed by men. Rebecca spent a decade hunting down these lost editions, paying thousands for books that others had dismissed as sentimental trash.
Today, in 2026, Rebecca Romney has returned to the spotlight, but on her own terms. She is no longer just a dealer, she is a tech-driven protector of the written word. To prevent another Book of Mormon scandal, Rebecca has integrated blockchain technology into Type Punch Matrix. Every book sold comes with a digital DNA that tracks its ownership back centuries. If a book is stolen, the blockchain red flags the item globally, making it impossible to sell on shows like Pawn Stars. She has introduced spectral ink scanners into her annual seminars. These devices use specific light frequencies to see through the ink. The result? She can detect if a signature was written with a steel nib post-1820s AD or a quill, exposing forgeries with 95% accuracy. By the start of this year, her firm has reached a valuation of over $10 million. She is currently consulting for the world's major museums, ensuring that the voices of 18th century Black and female writers are finally included in the permanent record of human history. From the desert of Phoenix to the halls of the FBI, and finally to the heights of the Grolier Club, Rebecca Romney has proved that a book is never just a boring relic. It is a living, breathing piece of evidence, and she's the one who knows how to make it talk.